This morning, heartbreak in the hills. Residents returned to rubble after a monster bushfire swallowed homes in Parkerville. Shooting horror, 14 dead and dozens injured as a gunman terrorises a university in Prague. The Prime Minister announces a $64 million aid package for flood-ravaged far north Queensland. And Usman Khawaja has his say after the ICC sanctions him for his black armband protest in the Perth test.
This is 7 Morning News, live from Perth, with Syan, Vallence.
Good morning. Heartbroken Parkerville residents have returned to a twisted mess of tin and rubble, all that's left of their family home. In just 6 minutes, the 3-storey house went from untouched to a tragic inferno. As Lockie Byrne reports, the Moody's have lost everything, just 3 sleeps out from Christmas.
Well, firefighters are continuing their job today, mopping up and keeping an eye out for spot fires here in Parkerville. But it's the people that were impacted that are today feeling the full toll. This house is the Moody's. They moved in almost 17 years ago to the day. Their 3-storey family home is now reduced to rubble. Their property, one of 2, gutted in the fierce blaze yesterday morning. Julie first found out about the fire from security cameras connected to her home. Husband Craig rushed home to save the dogs. It's all the family of 4 came away with.
It was all on flames across the driveway, so I backed down the driveway, went around, I'll come in through this property up there and come through the fence, because there was fire brigade in there too, so come through and got my dogs. But at that stage my house was actually still in one piece.
Unfortunately, it went so fast that I don't even think they got here in time. It was so quick.
The house was gone in 6 minutes.
Our son had his 17th birthday the day before the fire. So all his presents, everything are gone. All the Christmas presents are gone.
The Moody's were planning on holding their Christmas celebrations here. This patio is newly built, but that excitement has turned to devastation. All 5 emergency warning level fires over the last 2 days, Parkerville, Lanceland, 2J, Eaton and Manjimup, have now been downgraded, but the job's not done. Temperatures are set to soar past 35 degrees in Perth over the Christmas weekend, and firefighters who have already stretched themselves thin over the last 2 days remain on high alert.
And the Premier spoke on the current situation in Parkerville a short time ago and has confirmed 3 homes were lost in yesterday's ferocious fire. Let's take a listen.
Can I just acknowledge those Western Australians who have lost homes, possessions, animals in this horrible fire. This is heartbreaking news, especially so close to Christmas. And watching those flames engulf those homes is absolutely heartbreaking and distressing. But on behalf of the people of Western Australia, I want you to know that our hearts are with you. Right around the state, we are thinking of you today and your loss. Can I also take the opportunity to thank once again the firefighters and emergency service personnel who have done an outstanding job, amazing job in getting this fire under control. And I'm so thankful for the fact that there is no loss of human life. But I don't think we can underestimate the challenging conditions in which they worked. The terrain, the strong winds, the high temperatures. Urban search and rescue teams are currently undertaking rapid damage assessments, and early reports indicate that 3 residential properties and multiple sheds and outbuildings have been damaged or destroyed. The cause of the bushfire is accidental. Investigations have confirmed a tree has fallen on power lines, which sparked the blaze.
A gunman has shot dead 14 people and injured another 25 in the Czech capital, Prague. Students and teachers hid and ran for their lives at Charles University in the city's historic centre. And police say the gunman has also been, quote, eliminated. Hugh Whitfeld reports.
The shooting began mid-afternoon. The lone gunman made his way to the 4th floor of the arts building at the Charles University, right on the edge of Prague's old city and very close to the famous Charles Bridge. He opened fire on students and staff, made his way out to a balcony and fired on people below in the streets too. Students and staff barricading themselves inside classrooms, turning off the lights to try and hide. People were seen clinging to a ledge after climbing out of a window, hoping to avoid the gunman. He's been described as a 24-year-old student. His father was found dead earlier. And later the gunman was found dead too, although it's unclear whether police killed him or he took his own life. It sparked a massive police response in a city that is popular with tourists from right around the world, particularly at this time of year in the run-up to Christmas. A government minister describing it as an unprecedented, insane act with no clear links to international terror. It's being treated as a domestic incident, considering the shooter's links to his family and the university, potentially inspired by school massacres in other countries. It will go down as the worst mass shooting in modern Czech history.
Anthony Albanese is touring flood-devastated areas of far north Queensland this morning. The Prime Minister is announcing a $64 million package to help businesses and producers. Rachel Baxter has more.
Good morning. Well, the Prime Minister is in Cairns this morning meeting with residents, flood-affected residents here in Cairns. He'll go to the northern beaches, including Holloway's Beach, with Premier Stephen Miles. More than 2,000 damage assessments have been done across the far north now, and it has been confirmed 4 properties have been totally destroyed. 111 are considered severe and 389 have moderate flood damage. The impact of the disaster here in Cairns and across the northern beaches is obvious. The streets are littered with people's belongings ruined by Sunday's flooding event. As roads begin to reopen, evacuated residents are returning to find a mammoth clean-up, and it is all hands on deck. Volunteers from the SES and Rural Fire Service have been in sweeping out the mud and the mess. A mud army hit the ground this week too, with volunteers from across Cairns as well as right around Australia.
At the worst of times, we always see the best of the Australian character. We see people pitching in, whether it be our people in the energy workers, whether it be the volunteers, the SES. In
some good news this morning, emergency services have confirmed that all 35 communities further north, that's up near Woodjall, have now been evacuated to Cooktown. 216 people have been evacuated from up there, and police have confirmed that there are no more missing persons. Authorities still hold grave concerns, though, for an 85-year-old man who has been missing now for 5 days.
The government has announced a new plan for cleaner fuel and cars on our roads, but there's a catch. It means petrol will likely cost more. Josh Martin has the details from Canberra.
The federal government estimates petrol prices will rise by 1 cent a litre when these changes come into effect in late 2025. It means new cars, including SUVs and light commercial vehicles, will need to comply with Euro 6D noxious emissions standards. The government will also force petrol stations to sell higher quality unleaded 95 petrol with reduced aromatic hydrocarbons. Energy Minister Chris Bowen says the changes will save lives and take pressure off the health system. A University of Melbourne study found more than 11,000 Australians die prematurely every year from transport emissions. They contribute to things like lung and heart issues.
It's important that we have the cleanest possible fuel standards in Australia, but we also have to balance those with cost of living and the budget that families are experiencing.
In some good news for motorists, the NRMA is predicting petrol prices will fall around the nation as we head into Christmas. As always, their advice is shop around for the best price.
Bruce Lehrmann's defamation trial has entered its final day in the federal court. We've already heard from Network 10's lawyers. Today, closing submissions are being presented by Lehrmann's legal team. Paul Caddack is in court.
Bruce Lehrmann's lawyer has said this morning that whoever wins this trial, his client will forever be seen as, quote, the person who raped Brittany Higgins, as he sums up his defamation case, telling the court if Higgins had only been advised to go to the police before she went to the media, there would not have been what he called a virus of madness that spread from politicians to journalists, where the rights of the individual ceased to exist. Calling this trial a case of lies, damned lies and CCTV, arguing there there'd been selective use of the security vision taken from the Dock Hotel in Canberra, playing through it, insisting it shows Lehrmann didn't spend the whole night with Higgins and only bought her 2 of 8 drinks, accusing Brittany Higgins of inventing allegations and fabricating evidence, pointing to the so-called bruise photo as what he says is an example, while admitting Bruce Lehrmann did give unsatisfactory evidence, but that his version of events was plausible. He said this was a case that boils down to the evidence of 2 people, quote, 2 relatively young, fairly immature, ambitious, self-confident and to a degree self-absorbed young people. It follows closing submissions yesterday by lawyers for Network 10 and Lisa Wilkinson, arguing Lehrmann was, quote, fundamentally dishonest, while describing Higgins as compelling and believable. While Justice Michael Lee also remarked yesterday various parts of each witness's evidence simply can't be accepted. A month after it started, the trial ends today with a verdict on whether or not Bruce Lehrmann was defamed by Network 10 and Lisa Wilkinson, expected in the new year.
A man has been charged over a terrifying road rage attack in Thornley. It happened on Wednesday afternoon at a set of traffic lights on Spencer Road. The 22-year-old allegedly threw several punches through the window of a white sedan. Another man had to step in to break up the attack. The victim in his 40s received bruising and swelling to his arms and face. The accused will face court in January. Usman Khawaja has been warned by the ICC over his black armband protest in the Perth test against Pakistan. This morning, he's spoken about the decision at the MCG. Nick McCullum is there.
It was a very emotional and passionate Usman Khawaja at the MCG this morning. He was here to launch Cricket Australia's multicultural action plan. Until recently, he said, cricket was a white sport in Australia. As you mentioned, the ICC overnight has decided to charge and reprimand Khawaja for wearing a black armband during the Perth test. He said he will fight that because he told cricket authorities it was for a personal bereavement. The ICC too will continue to ban him writing human rights slogans on his boots. He says he will also continue to fight that ban. He insists the ICC is being inconsistent. Let's hear what he had to say.
I followed all the regulations, the past precedents. Guys have put stickers on their bats, names on their shoes, done all sorts of things in the past without ICC approval and never been reprimanded. I just feel like it's my responsibility to speak up on this. We live in such a beautiful country. I'm blessed to be able to go to Australia. I can walk outside, I don't have to worry about a thing. My kids can do the same. I just want that for the rest of the world.
While all of this is being sorted out, he will not wear a black armband or any slogans during the Boxing Day test. But he does feel a moral responsibility, he says, to keep on speaking out at every opportunity about innocent children dying in Gaza. When he was asked, is all this controversy affecting him on field, his response was one word and terse: no. He said the test, of course, starts on Boxing Day on Tuesday.
You're watching 7's Morning News live from Perth. Still to come, travel chaos. Australian airports preparing for the annual Christmas exodus. And former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani files for bankruptcy after a defamation verdict. Details next. Airports across the country are bracing for huge crowds as tens of thousands jet off for Christmas. The peak holiday period begins today, so both domestic and international terminals are expected to be bustling. Melbourne Airport is expecting 1.6 million passengers over December and January. Travellers are warned to get to the airport early. Donald Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, has filed for bankruptcy after losing a defamation case against 2 2020 election workers. A federal judge has ordered New York's former mayor pay nearly $150 million immediately. Jacqueline Robson has the story.
In paperwork filed in New York, Rudy Giuliani listed nearly $500 million in debts, including unpaid taxes, big legal fees and $148 million a jury ordered he pay to election workers. The former lawyer for Donald Trump was found to have defamed the two Georgia workers when he spread lies that they'd tried to steal the presidential election from Trump, leading to vile racial attacks and abuse. Now he claims he doesn't have the money to pay them. Giuliani has listed his assets between $1 million and $10 million, but legal analysts say going bankrupt won't get him out of paying the women.
I am quite confident when this case gets before a fair tribunal, it'll be reversed so quickly it'll make your head spin, and the absurd number that just came in will help that, actually.
The former New York mayor's financial strain has been mounting, exacerbated by investigations and lawsuits relating to his work to try to overturn the results of the 2020 election. A spokesperson for Giuliani said the bankruptcy filing will give him time to pursue an appeal to the defamation verdict.
Hamas says Palestinian groups will not release any more hostages until Israel agrees to end the war in Gaza. The statement comes as talks continue in Egypt to broker a new ceasefire. As Israel's bombardment of Gaza continues, the Hamas-run Health Ministry has marked a grim milestone. It claims more than 20,000 civilians have been killed since the war began. 6 of the 10 Americans freed in a prisoner swap with Venezuela have landed in a US military base in Texas. The men were released in exchange for US President Joe Biden freeing an ally of Venezuela's president. The deal is the result of months of negotiations between Venezuela and the US. It was mediated by Qatar. Stay with us on 7. Sports coming up after the break, including why an international cricketer's been slapped with a big ban in the Big Bash. And the Aussie women's glimmer of hope in their test against India. Welcome back. Glenn Maxwell hailed Renegade star Jake Fraser-McGurk as the most talented young batter in the country during his half-century off just 21 balls against the Heat in the Big Bash last night. Fraser-McGurk exploded for the Gades, smashing 7 sixes, but Paul Walter sparked a Heat fight back, first taking 3 wickets, then hitting 30 off 15, dragging the visitors across the line.
There you go, there's the answer. That is so beautifully struck. Tall Paul goes long.
Nicknamed Tall Paul, the Englishman has settled into his new surroundings. Sydney Sixers star Tom Curran has received a 4-game ban for allegedly intimidating a match umpire. It happened during warm-ups for the Sixers' clash with Hobart, with the umpire trying to prevent Curran from running on the pitch.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That is totally and utterly ridiculous.
Curran is also accused of abusing the umpire as he sidestepped past him. The Sixers will appeal the ban, but a hearing won't happen before tonight's match against Adelaide Strikers, which Curran will miss. Australia has a mountain to climb to fight back in their test against India in Mumbai after the opening day's play. After slumping to 8 for 168, the Aussie tail fought hard to scrounge a total of 219. Indian openers Charlie Verma and Smriti Mandhana rollicked along with a 90-run stand. Jess Jonathan gave Australia just a glimmer of hope.
Big appeal, and given.
India resume on day 2 at 1 for 98 off only 19 overs, trailing by 121. Socceroos coach Graham Arnold named his 26-man squad for next month's Asian Cup in Qatar. Captain Matt Ryan was included despite recent surgery on a broken cheekbone. With 12 goals in 8 games for Melbourne victory, 36-year-old Uruguay-born Bruno Fornaroli returns as an exciting prospect. World Cup goal scorer Matthew Leckie misses out with a hamstring injury. I'll have all your weather details next on 7's Morning News, including the latest Christmas Day forecast. Checking the weather now, another warm and windy day. It's currently 29 degrees in our city. Looking at the forecast for our suburbs, a few degrees cooler than yesterday, 30 in Scarborough, a warmer 35 in Armidale, 27 if you're lucky enough to be on Rotto. And for the rest of the week, the sun's sticking around. This weekend is one scorcher after another, 34 tomorrow, then 35 on Christmas Eve. Santa will have to navigate southeasterly winds in his sleigh, and then we'll wake up to a warm 33 degrees on Christmas Day, dropping to 25 on Boxing Day, 26 on Wednesday and 31 on Thursday. That's 7's morning news for this Friday. Stay with us. We'll have updates right across the afternoon and, of course, in our main bulletins at 4 and 6 o'clock. I'm Syan Vallence. Enjoy the rest of your day.